What's going on, podcast listeners? My name is Michael Chernow. I am a restaurateur and lifestyle entrepreneur, and I am truly obsessed with living a life better than yesterday through wellness, fitness, and good vibes. I've always wondered if the drive to succeed is something we are born with, or if it's something that is made over time through grit, drive, and perseverance. I get to answer that question exactly, and the goal of this podcast is to talk with people that have absolutely crushed it in life and have inspired me to do the same. This is Born or Made. Boom, recording here. All right. Ladies and gents, welcome back to the Born or Made podcast. Today, I have a guy on the show that is pretty much the fucking man. His name is Joe Sena. He is the CEO and founder of Spartan and the Death Race. If you have not done a Spartan race, you're fucking hiding under a rock somewhere and you should peek your head out. He's also a New York Times bestselling author of Spartan Up, Spartan Fit, and Spartan Way. He started his career selling fireworks. How old were you, Joe, when you were selling fireworks?
Oh man, I was like in 6th grade or something when I started selling fireworks.
So I want to introduce Joe to the show. I'm very excited to have him on. I met Joe at an event about a year and a half ago, and we kind of hit it off. And welcome to the show, Joe Sena.
Thanks for having me. You made me feel good. I should have you every day when I wake up. I need you to, I'm just going to repeat what you said. I'm going to blast what you just said around the house so that the kids and my wife said to me the other day, you know what she said? She goes, it's not a fair fight in our house. You have a podcast. You do all these things. You get media. She goes, it's like, I'm like Bernie Sanders before he became big. And you're like Ronald Reagan. And we can't compete fairly for the children's attention, but somehow she wins. She wins every battle anyway. The kids like her better.
It's so funny that, in my life outside of home, I am typically the captain of the ship in my business and things. And when it comes to home, I am without a doubt far from captain. I am not captain at all. I am a soldier, pretty much.
You come in the house, you take off your uniform and all your medals.
Yeah. So Joe, you have such an interesting story, man. I've heard it a bunch of times just because I listen to podcasts and you've done some really awesome podcasts over the years, and you have a podcast of your own. I was a guest on your podcast a long time ago when I launched the Seymours in 2015 or 16. I'd love to just start from the beginning. The podcast Born or Made is essentially, we talk about the nature nurture question, whether you think you were born with an inherent ability to get to where you're at today, or if you were made over time. I have my opinions on the conversation. I love the dialogue on it because I just think it's so interesting. And based on your story, I kind of think I know where you stand, but I'm going to ask you at the end of the podcast whether you think you were born or made. So let's start from the jump, dude. Let's get to it.
Yeah, I think about it a lot, right? Because we have 4 children here in this house, and I think all the time, how do I get these kids to hustle, to get after it, to have those street smarts, that instinct, without any of the negatives from the neighborhood, where I grew up. My friends and I grew up. There were a lot of negatives there. Could I recreate that in a nicer atmosphere in suburbia or on a farm in Vermont? And the jury's out. I don't know if I can. So I don't know if we can, my wife and I. So I think it's a little bit of both. I think, Can I
just stop you there for one sec? Because I think it's so interesting that you say that. You grew up in Queens,
yeah,
and I'm the first non-Queens kid out of my 4 generations of New York City family lineage. I grew up in Manhattan. So you and I have this New York City thing in common. And in the pandemic, when the pandemic hit, we have a house upstate. We decided to pack our stuff up for a couple of weeks and come to the house upstate. I never thought in a million years that I would leave New York City. I always wanted my kids to grow up in New York City because I was exposed to some really amazing shit, as well as some really difficult and challenging things. But I believe that New York City offers a level of exposure to hustle and grit and street smarts that you can't really find many other places. So, what are you doing for that?
Yeah, I'm trying to manufacture it, right? I'm trying to create. As you're asking questions, I'm just thinking when the boys were 7 and 9 years old, 5 and 7 years old, I remember there was a pretty big storm outside, and I had this little ritual going where the kids had to go get bags of pellets, wood, from the barn, which was, a couple of 100 yards away. And it was like a hurricane outside. And my wife was like, "You're not going to," I said, "No, they got to go out. What are you talking about? They got to go out." And so that was my way, I think, of, trying to recreate 84th Street and 149th Avenue and Donna Cavalcanti running by, beating up somebody, like just crazy shit I grew around. They were going to go out in the storm on the farm, completely protected, and go carry, a bag of wood pellets that weighed 100 pounds. My son's walking by right now. He's smiling. He probably remembers it. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to look, they're on a mat. They're doing 11. The boys are doing 11 wrestling practices a week. Not so much because I want them to be Olympic wrestlers, but because it's hard. It's hard work. And I guess I'm trying to recreate that neighborhood thing, that hustle. Like you said, I'd wake up in the morning and the diesel trucks, you could hear them early in the morning. Bagels were being buttered, third generation pizza places, they were already making dough. Shit was happening early in the morning, and you saw that, and it just became part of you. But I don't know, the jury's out if it'll work. They might need to, I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, you just said that, and it just, I never actually, so interesting. I never thought about that. I think that, people talk about New York City and this energy, or just city in general, right? I mean, you get the same energy when you walk through like Naples and parts of Chicago, and, like there's cities where you get it. New York is a special place, but from my child, from the minute I was born, you walk outside and you could call it energy, or you could just call it people moving. You know what I mean? Like there's people moving everywhere. And that, I think, triggers something in the brain to be like, okay, shit is happening. People are moving. Now being upstate for the last 8 months, I have everything I need here. So I'm happy. I'm content. I love being with my family. It's unbelievable. I never thought I'd have this time, but nobody's fucking moving. Like there's no, like, you walk outside and it's beautiful and it's like you smell, you breathe in the crisp air, and like that's awesome. But there's never a moment where you're like, oh shit, let me get out of this guy's way, or this person's looking at me funny, or can something happen here? There's none of that. Really. It's like, oh my God, you're go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you. On the farm, I created some of that. I was driving the other night, and I was driving by a big construction site, and my eyes always go to construction sites, heavy equipment, big trucks, cranes, dirt. And I created the hustle that you're talking about, that I'm talking about, on the farm for 12 years by just bringing construction to me. So there were machines running, we were building buildings, because I need to be around that action you're talking about, right? So going back to your question, can you create it? A construction site creates it. I remember calling my dad when my dad was alive. We're living up in Vermont. We're living on the farm, and I'm losing my fucking mind because I'm like, I can't get anybody to work. Nobody hustles. He goes, Joe, you move to a place where you want to get a bunch of work done, and you're living around everybody. They move there to not do any work. Like, you know what I mean? Not to say that people in Vermont don't work, but like there is some, they like to walk around and smell the roses, right? And hike the mountains and do the things that you might not do in Queens or in Manhattan. because we gotta go get the store ready to be open at 8 a.m. or the truck's got to start making deliveries at 5 a.m. So I don't know. I create a little bit. I try to create. I manufacture adversity is my term. Whether it's construction, whether it's the wrestling mats. I had a kung fu master move in with us. But at the same time, I'm looking over. I'm in front of my computer. I'm looking over at my second son, and he's playing with our little white dog. Now in Queens, we had two Rottweilers, and we got this. Little, you know what I mean? So we got an issue here.
Oh man,
you're shining a spotlight on a problem. I got a problem here.
I just think it's so interesting, man. You literally, I will tell you this for the first time. I had never thought about that. There's there's the little white dog. Look at you. That's Vermont Rottweiler. I say like just the energy from the people moving and the sound, it's like the people moving and the sound create just this, it just gets the blood flowing. Now I am blessed because I just have this internal fire that just never goes off. I can't wait to go to bed at night so I can wake up in the morning, literally. And I'm not saying that because I'm telling you that that's real for me. And I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm in the gym and I've got my whole entire morning just like laid out, I'm a structured guy. So what does that look like for you? What does your morning look like?
Yeah, I'm an early morning guy. I've always been an early morning guy back in Queens, maybe because my dad was out the door at 5 a.m. So, and he was around big trucks and they had a warehouse and they had a trucking company next to Kennedy Airport. So like, you had to be up early, I guess, as a kid. I'm thinking as I talk to you, I'm thinking back to all those years. I probably wanted to be around him early in the morning. So I remember at a very young age, like I sit up kind of like a robot in the morning. As soon as sunlight hits my face or it's like 5 a.m., I just get up. There's no like laying in bed. There's no like, my wife hates it, but I got to get out of bed immediately as soon as my eyes open and I get right to it. And I'm working out, by 5:30 a.m. I got to be sweating early in the morning. I got to get some big stuff done early in the morning. And then I got to make the kids work out. Mandatory for the last, let me just think for a second, for the last 11 years, they've been working out every single morning. And that's a fight. That is a fight every day. And then all the, all the normal shit starts, the emails, the phone calls, the bullshit.
I was having a conversation with a guy named Jay Ferrugia. It's a really cool dude, and he's got a great podcast called the Renegade Radio. And he said something to me that was so it just struck a chord. He said, I reserve the first part of my day for proactivity. And then I don't get into reactivity until all my proactivity is done. And I was like, that just sums it up,
Right.
Like reacting to shit is disrupting, right? Like if you put all that stuff to the side and you actually get after it, like get after it, the term, like you are attacking something. I feel like the rest of your day is a breeze, no matter what is going on, right? Like if you get it out of the way.
No, it goes back to Admiral McRaven's famous speech there, right? You want to change the world, start by making your bed in the morning, and it creates momentum. So for you and I, it's proactivity, it's working out, it's sweating, it's, I don't eat my first meal till 9. I think you were eating one meal a day when I met you a while back. What do you do now? What's your latest on the meals?
So I was, when we met, it was right before my first bodybuilding competition. And so I was like in an insane calorie deficit for that. But now I actually got my pro bodybuilding card in September.
Yes.
Thanks, man. And so now I'm eating like an animal, but I don't, I train fasted every morning. So I'm in the gym by 5:30 and, I work out for about 2 hours and then I have I have some athletic greens, and then I eat. And I eat the same thing every day. I'm kind of I'm a real creature of habit. I'm actually launching a business called Creatures of Habit, based on this idea that like you find some shit that works, you stick with it, and like life just gets better. But yeah, so I'm eating a lot. I'm eating a lot these days. I'm trying to put on some size.
Good,
it's not easy.
good. So same thing. My breakfast is until 9, and then now lately I've been doing another workout at night because I bring the kids to their wrestling practice at night, and there's a power lifter. Yeah, I was never a big subscriber to lifting. You're gonna cringe at me because that's your whole thing. I was just more of an endurance guy, but this power lifter kind of sucked up these kids. There's a whole bunch of kids there, and they all want to see, what can they bench and what can they deadlift and what can they squat. And it's awesome because then it's no longer me motivating the kids. They're just sucked up in this thing. And so I try to do my stuff again at night when I get there. And then I take my second cold shower, and I go to bed. I go to bed easy. A lot of people out there say they can't sleep. I mean, that means you're not working hard enough. I go to sleep like, boom, I'm out.
So do I, man. It's weird. I literally, I've implemented this habit at night where I actually listen to, listen to a book as I go to bed, and I literally put it on a 30-minute sleep timer, and within a minute and a half I'm out. And so I get through books pretty quickly, but I don't retain any information because I get about a minute every 30 minutes. I want to go back to your story in Queens, and because I really want to understand what drove you, man. Let's get into it because I think it's an interesting thing to cover.
Well, my parents were, first of all, the neighborhood was all organized crime. And so if you were a young boy like Charlie sitting over here on my right, you wanted that. You wanted the nice car that they had. You wanted the respect. You heard everybody whispering under their breath, even though you didn't know at a young age what it was exactly. I mean, you kind of know who the tough guys are, who the lions are in the neighborhood and what that's all about. And so you wanted to be that. And, my dad was around that because he had a business at the airport. And so my mom recognized, she happened to walk into a health food store in the early 70s, and she met a yogi, and there was a bunch of incense burners, probably the only health food store in New York at the time. And there was an Indian that had just come in from India, from Kennedy Airport, was in the health food store, and she pivoted her whole life. She divorced my dad. She got her kids, me and my sister, out of that neighborhood because of, it was raviolis, cannolis, jail, cement, pizza. Those are the conversations every night. Who's going to jail? You see this new pizza? This guy have you tried that calzone? Or you believe the price of cement went up? I mean, that was it. And my mom wanted to see a different way, so she wanted to move us to Ithaca, New York, because it was more of a hippie-ish kind of a place. Cornell University is there, more open-minded to this new way of life she was into. But I wanted to be in first of all, kids don't want to leave their friends, but I especially wanted to be there. And the thing was, I had red hair. Everybody else had dark skin like you, dark hair, right? And I had red hair, light skin. And so I didn't necessarily fit the mold of like leg breaker, that wasn't the look I had. And so I think I struggled with subconsciously or consciously this idea was I tough enough? Could I do the time? Because if you wanted to go on that path, if you wanted to be successful in that business, you had to go away. You had to do time. That was the deal. And so I started cold showers way before Wim Hof, man. I was doing cold showers literally in the 70s. I was carrying rocks around the neighborhood. I was seeing what my mother was doing. She was running 10 miles a day. She was doing yoga. She was meditating. She became vegan. And I was applying it to my, I wanted to be tough. I wanted to use some of the tough things she was doing, but I didn't want to do it with incense and chanting and beads. And And so that's where it all started. That's where it started. And I think my first test to see if I was quote unquote tough enough was I started a business. After selling the fireworks, I started a swimming pool cleaning business. My first customer was my neighbor. He was the head of the Banana Organized Crime family. He was the boss. And he took me in under his wing. I was pre-teens. And he said, all right, listen, first lesson, on time is late. Supposed to be here 8 a.m. You get here 7:45. Second lesson, and it was like a very quick thing. I'm never going to talk to you again. This is all you need to know through life, you know. Like if you're going to clean the swimming pool, you're going to go above and beyond. Clean the shed out, clean the windows, do all these other things that you're not even getting paid for because you're going to make yourself invaluable. I'm going to recommend you, and that's just the deal. And the third thing is you never ask for money. Do not have your hand out. You'll get paid when you add value. And most unlikely source to get these invaluable lessons, and they stuck with me.
Do you think that do you think that he lived by those mantras or that advice, and have those actually stuck with you from
it literally guided my whole life. In addition to stuff my dad was giving me, and somehow I always have 20-year older mentors. I don't know how that happens. I've always got 20, 30-year older mentors that have given me great advice, but those three bits of advice really stuck out, and it's guided my whole life. Did he live by those? At the time I was pre-teens. He was probably 40 something. And I don't know, he went to jail. He was on the lam. There was a lot of shit happened. Certainly while things were good, I think they all do. And there are some guys that really held firm to their, values and beliefs, no matter what you think of them. There are some guys that really stuck them out. And then, we've all read the papers and watched the movies. There's others that, here are my principles. If you don't like those, I have others type guys.
Yeah. I remember as a kid going to Canal Street often, probably 11, 12, maybe even 11, 12 years old on the trains. I was like a maniac as a kid, and there was no stopping me. I was really I was I feel for my parents of how bad I was as a kid. But we used to go to Canal Street, and back in those days, specifically in the summertime, obviously around July 4th, but you can get your hands into fireworks on Canal Street in the 80s and 90s in New York City any time of year. And there was always the Chinese guys that would set them up on the sidewalk. And then when you said to the Chinese guys, I don't want the Rizzlers, I want the fucking dynamite. Then they would walk you into the Italians. They'd walk you down the alley into the back room, down a flight of steps. You end up in this dark room, and there's literally sticks of dynamite everywhere. You're like, holy shit, I remember it.
I know exactly. I think I know exactly where you went. Yeah, that's funny.
Well,
we used to blow up telephone booths.
So did we.
Yeah.
To get the quarters. That was our scheme.
Yeah.
That was our scheme.
You know how I know I'm older than you? Because when you said get the quarters, I think I remember the phones taking nickels, dimes, and then quarters.
Yeah. I just remember those little pineapples. We used to shove those little blockbusters and pineapples inside the quarter, the coin receive, and just get, boom, blast, boom, 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 boom. Everybody in the neighborhood was like, ah.
Anybody listening doesn't know what I think a pineapple was a quarter stick of dynamite.
Yeah.
At that time, but crazy times, man. But yeah, so I don't know.
It's not like that anymore. It's certainly not like that anymore.
And listening to you saying, I don't know how hard it was on my parents. It was really hard on my parents to control me. I was a lunatic as well. And I wonder if we were to study, because this is your podcast, this is exactly the thing you're looking at. If we were to study entrepreneurs, if we saw that more often than not, that the young kids were just uncontrollable and then later on became entrepreneurs. I have a feeling there's a correlation there.
Well, I mean, look, I also, the fact that you started selling fireworks in 6th grade, I mean, I started my first business in fifth, sixth grade walking dogs. And by the end of my sixth grade year, I had 30 dogs that I was walking, and my parents had to actually stop me because I'd get home from school and I'd walk dogs until 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And, I think that there's the goal for the podcast for me, and it's so hard to really distinguish, but what was it that drove you? Like, what was the thing? I can't really explain. I knew I wanted. That's what it was for me. Like I always wanted. I was never comfortable settling. Like I wasn't like, okay, cool. Like it just never, when the Reebok pumps came out, I had a dream. My parents were broke. And when the Reebok pumps came out, it was probably 1986. I remember it like it was yesterday. They were the high top ones with the neon green. And then they came out with a mid top that was blue and black. And I knew I wasn't getting them unless I got them. And I had a dream that I was walking out of a church. I remember this dream so clearly. I was walking out of a church. I don't know who I was with, but I was with a friend of mine, and it was at night. And I looked down and I had the Reeboks I had the pumps on my feet, and I jumped down the flight of steps thinking that I was the coolest thing on the planet. And then that was when I said, I'm going to go get the pumps. And then I started.
I think you nailed it. For me, it was the Adidas Superstars. So on the one hand, I don't want my kids interested in all that stuff, but on the other hand, I want my kids interested in all that stuff, right? Because it drives all the actions, the hustle, the work to go get those things. Look at this guy right here. Look at this. Look at what we're dealing with. He's sitting there reading Harry Potter. He doesn't care what sneakers he has because he can get any sneakers he wants. That's the problem.
What if you were asked, like, what do you think it was that drove you to want to sell fireworks and then, get into the pool business and actually, I mean, you had how many customers did you have at the end of your pool, at the end of the pool business run?
I had 700 customers, but I think it was exactly what you just said. I think it was, I want the shoes. I want to know if I'm tough enough. I want to be on their level. And I'm going to hustle. Here's a crazy one. We put on a race in June during COVID in Jacksonville. And I'm down there with my family. And this woman comes out to me, 40 something years old. Here, come here. Charlie wants me to show you his sneakers. What's the point of this?
They're all ripped and stuff.
They're ripped. And do you see that, by the way? See that on the bottom of the shoe.
Did he do that?
The reason that is completely destroyed is I made him do 300 rope climbs in a row, and on his way down, he would break with his shoes, and it literally ripped through his shoes.
I love it.
I'm trying to put a little neighborhood
He's putting in work, man. Look at that. That's work right there.
He's putting in work, and he's cutting weight right now. But so what was I saying?
You were saying that you were down in Florida for the race.
Florida. Yeah, and I meet this woman. This woman comes, Joe, and I said, yeah. She said, I was your neighbor growing up. I said, really? She goes, yeah, I knew your sister. And I said, you did? And I didn't. She goes, well, you didn't really do the stuff that all the other kids did. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, we would like go to the beach, or we would go to the there was this place, this hot dog place in town, whatever, video games. All you were doing was working all the time. And it was like, it really became clear. This is only a few months ago, right? In June, somebody I didn't even remember that remembers me from 30 years ago and says, yeah, you all you were doing was working. And I think, I certainly wasn't reading Harry Potter. We'll take another. I certainly wasn't sitting around reading Harry Potter. I can't complain. The kid's reading, right?
Yeah.
I wish he was carrying bricks, but he's reading.
Mm-hmm. So I think that there is a bit of an inherent gene or something that gives probably a smaller group of people this drive to want to just do. I think the question I get asked most, and I'm sure you get asked this much more than I do, how do you stay so motivated? How do you stay so in shape? What is it? What's the secret? I literally, somebody wrote this morning on a post. They wrote, I'll read this to you. This is actually, somebody said, let's see, how do I get this? Somebody said to me, what did they write? They wrote, let me just fucking read this. Okay, here we go. Bro, how do you get the motivation to work out, man? I've been trying for days and it's so short-lived. What's your secret? And I wrote, no secret, man. It's called manning the fuck up. You are the only roadblock. Get out of your own fucking way, make a commitment and stick to it. No one or nothing is going to be able to do it for you. And like, I literally believe that at my core. There's no fucking trick. There's no pill. There's no nut. They're like, you just do. That's it.
I love Yoda, right? Do or do not. That's it. There's no trick. That's it. So no, you and I are in complete agreement. I think, here's what I think. There's a great book called The Edison Gene. Tonight when you go to bed, put it on, listen to it before you fall asleep. And I forget the author's name, but he argues that ADD, attention deficit disorder, is actually a gene. And the gene is not a problem. It's actually a gift. And I agree with him. I definitely have it. And I agree. It's the greatest gift ever. And he argues that the gene comes from us being hunter-gatherers. And we were constantly monitoring our environment. We're looking for things we can eat, kill, forage. We're looking out for threats. And then we became an agrarian society. And what happens when we become an agrarian society? We sit around waiting for the plants to grow, right? Mm-hmm. You and I are out there hunting and finding and cutting down trees so we could replant some stuff. And then there's the farmers over here that are just, they're just waiting, right? And so I think that's what it is. I think, I joke with my wife all the time. I say, you're a farmer, I'm a hunter-gatherer. That doesn't make one right or one wrong, but I think the dog's about to eat a thing of glue. Charlie, can you get that glue out of his mouth? Yeah. One's not right, one's not wrong, but I think that's that hustle, you and I. And there just happens to be, you're probably gonna be more hunter-gatherer if you're even gonna live in the places where like you and I grew up, right? By the way, you moved to a farm. You're a hunter-gatherer, you just moved to the farm. And you go outside every day and you're wondering why there's not a bunch of hunter-gatherers out there killing shit.
Well, guess what opens up tomorrow?
Hunting season.
You better believe I will be out there at 4:00 in the morning. I want to ask you about, so just quickly, just run us through. So you end up on Wall Street, right? How did that happen?
My mom wins the battle. My sister and I go to Ithaca, New York. We go back and forth and see our dad, I think once a month, every 2 weeks. And I'm graduating high school in Ithaca. Can't wait to get back to the neighborhood and leave Ithaca. And my friend, whose dad is a professor at Cornell, says, hey, why don't we go to Cornell? And I was like, well, I got this business I'm running, swimming pool business back in Queens. I got to go back to my business. I want to get back to the neighborhood. And our grades suck. Like my grades suck. Like I'm not going to be able to get in Cornell. He says, no. He said, my dad's a professor. He'll get us in. So that was intriguing to me because if it was a little gray and there was a way in, all right, we'll go to Cornell. That could be cool. So we both threw on suits. We interviewed at Cornell and neither of us got in. But now I was even more intrigued. Now I was like, oh, I'm not good enough for this school, right? I want to go. And his dad said, listen, you can take classes at Cornell, not as a student, but you'd be non-matriculated. eventually they would count those classes if you became a student. But we could take them and we could prove to Cornell that we can handle the workload. So why don't we do that in September? We could take 3 classes. All the regular kids are taking 5 classes. So I said, all right, here's what I'll do this summer. When I go back to the neighborhood to run my business, I'll go to St. John's. I'll take a couple classes at St. John's. I'll learn how to study. I'll hopefully get some good grades. And then when we get in, because it sounds like we'll get in if we do well, I'll just apply those St. John's credits so that I'm caught up. Went back, ran my business, went to St. John's, actually fell in love with going to school, learning how to learn. Came back. My buddy, by the way, completely diverted. He said, fuck that. He goes, if we're going to get serious in September, I'm going to Vegas. I want to party all summer. So he goes to Vegas. Come back, do very well at St. John's. I do very well at Cornell. We reapply, both of us reapply. Neither of us get in again. The admissions woman says, look, you're better off going to another school. And then in 2 or 3 years, you could apply. Sorry, the dog's barking.
That's all right.
In 2 or 3 years, you could apply, and maybe you'll get let in. And so my buddy tapped out. And he went to Vegas. He went to UNLV, and I stuck with it. I was pretty fired up. I was going to do this. I was already starting to build an identity that I was going to Cornell, even though I wasn't going to Cornell, right? Even though I wasn't official, like my dad was proud. My son's at Cornell, and first kid in our lineage to get to a university, but I was like a fraud. I wasn't even official. So I did it again. I took 3 classes again and reapplied, and the answer was no. And then I did it again, and the answer was no. And on my 4th try, I was pretty broken. I thought, you know what? My business has gotten really big in Queens. I'd rather be with those guys anyway. What the hell am I doing here? I'm clearly not cut out for it. And my mom said, before you leave, before you pack it in and quit, I want you to meet this yoga student of mine. She taught yoga out of the house, my mother. And this woman's name was Professor Anita Racine. I remember her name like yesterday. And she sits me down and she says, she asked me a bunch of questions to see, what my interests are and so forth. She's looking at my grades. My grades are pretty good. And she goes, look, I run the textile department at Cornell. And between us, I didn't know what a textile was. And she says, I got 92 women in the department and we need some diversity. We need some men. Do you like textiles? And I was like, I love textiles. So I became the first male in that department. And I studied women's hemlines, and I studied design, and we studied the business, the actual textile business, which honestly, if I had to do it again, I would take the same major, the same focus, because the textile industry at that point was going through turmoil. It was leaving the US and going overseas, and there were quota issues. And so we really dug into some cool stuff. But then the added benefit is if I watch a movie with my family and it's an old movie, I know exactly what era it's from based on women's hemlines, because so
a skill that everybody should have.
A skill everybody should have. So I'm graduating. I get in. My buddy, like I said, went to UNLV. I'm graduating. And last semester, there's this class offered, this entrepreneurship class at the business school. And so I decided to take that class. There's a bunch of judges that are going to offer $5,000 to the best business idea. You got to present in front of the judges. So I came up with this idea. I presented. I ended up winning the thing. And I ended up becoming friends with one of the judges. One of the judges, Italian guy, lives in Ithaca, still lives in Ithaca now, went to Cornell, but we clicked right away because he had some of my neighborhood in him, and I brought him a bottle of Sambuca to his house. We built a relationship, and he became one of those mentors for me, just like the boss of the Bonanno family was my mentor, and or my dad was my mentor. This guy became a mentor, and he said, what are you doing when you graduate? Which was only a few months away. And I said, well, I'm going back to run my business. It's a multi-million-dollar business now. I got the greatest customers in the world. They kill people for a living. And he said, you're an idiot. You got to go to Wall Street. So he ended up, long story short, he ended up guiding me upon graduation. not easily, but he pushed me eventually to Wall Street. And I ended up in your town. I ended up in Manhattan. A lot of guys from Queens don't end up in Manhattan. I ended up in Manhattan.
That's true.
Yep.
Queens are all about the Mets, the Jets, and heavy metal. That was when I was a kid. All the Queens kids, because I went to LaGuardia High School, which was an arts high school, and all the Queens kids were Mets fans, Jets fans, and into heavy metal.
Not only that, it's more of a 9 to 5 kind of place.
Blue collar. Yeah.
It's blue collar. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. And you're right. Like most Queens kids, Brooklyn kids would come to Manhattan, Queens in the Bronx, and Staten Island didn't even exist in the whole with it. Like Staten Island was just kind of like a,
you know what that was?
Yeah. I think I've been there once.
I had a few customers there, but I could never figure that place out.
Well, I'll tell you, the Verrazano Bridge is an awesome bridge to run. It's an awesome bridge to run. I was a big, before I got into weight training, I was, I competed in Muay Thai kickboxing for years. And in Muay Thai, you don't lift any weights. All you do is you run for your conditioning and you do calisthenics. And then kettlebell work, started to become a thing just because you don't, it doesn't stiffen you up, kettlebell work like weights would. But I was a big bridge runner. So all I want to do, when I was like running the marathon and I was just like running over the bridges. So my only real taste of Staten Island over the years was my like 1 or 2 feet into the borough once I would, get to the other side of the bridge and back. I will say that, Queens has got its own thing going. So you get into Wall Street, and you say, I've heard you say this on you briefly touch on the Wall Street stuff, but I just wanted to ask you, did you crush on Wall Street?
Well, I got crushed right away. I ended up in Wall Street. I had made some money over the years running my business, and then I thought I knew what the hell I was doing, trading stocks. So I started to invest and overinvest, and right away I just got hammered, killed. And so all those years making all that money, basically lost it all. But I started to build a skill set, and I had a great job where I could learn the entire business from the bottom to the top. And I eventually spun out and started my own firm, and we killed it. We just killed it. Right time, right place, right idea, and we just killed it. And sold it in 2005, had moved to Vermont, and then just chased this crazy dream of running up and down mountains and across countries and being out in snow drifts. I'm sorry the dog is barking like crazy. And my son who's listening to this hustle conversation, made or born, should go over there and quiet the dog down. Let's go.
But I want to ask you something else before we dive into Spartan, because obviously, I know that you don't have a ton of time left, but I want to get into Spartan, obviously. Just the work on Wall Street and the years of pounding the concrete like that. What were you taking care of yourself or no?
No.
Not at all.
Not at all. No. I mean, when I did the construction, I was just naturally very fit because we're mixing cement, laying bricks. It became much bigger than a swimming pool service, but we were building pools. We were doing all kinds of stuff. So, and I worked 14, 15-hour days. I was very, very fit. Plus, I was a gym rat. And I invented with a kid out of prison, we called it the prison workout. You'll actually appreciate this. This was probably 1989, 89, 90. It was because I worked so much, I had to put in a workout. I had to come up with a workout that I can get in and out in an hour. I had to be able to get in and out in an hour. I wanted to hit every body weight. I just didn't believe, or body part. I didn't believe in like, oh, we're gonna do legs today, and then we're gonna do. I didn't have time for that. So it was. I think it was over 100 sets in an hour, and it started with I don't know. let me go through the whole thing if you don't mind, because it's a trip down memory lane for me. It was, I'd go over to the squat rack. We'd just put one plate on. So it was 135 pounds, 25 reps. Run from the squat rack, literally run. Once the clock started, there was no wasting time. We went right from exercise to exercise, right? And the only guy, I had 100 different friends try this with me for years. The only guy was the kid that came out of prison, this kid John. That would stick with me. Everybody else said this is the dumbest workout ever. So we do the squats, 25 reps. We immediately go over to leg extensions, 25 reps, leg curls, 25 reps, calf raises, 25 reps, 4 rounds. So I'd get 4 rounds done. I'd go to shoulders, I'm literally remembering, I haven't talked about this forever. So I'm remembering. We'd go military press, whatever the weight was pretty light for me. I didn't have super strong shoulders. So maybe they were 25-pound plates, and we'd knock out, as many as we could. We'd go to side laterals, 25 reps, front, 25 reps, rear delts, 25 reps, 4 rounds. I'd go from that. I'm literally remembering this. This is fucking 30 years ago. Run over to the pull-up bar. They had a pull-up bar that had I think it was a Cybex machine. I don't know what the name of the machine was, but you could step on they still have them today. You could step on it and get some assistance.
Yeah.
So it was, the only thing we did for back was that machine, 25 reps, 4 rounds. He'd go, I go, he'd go, I go. Get over to bench. It was all dumbbell work. It was flat bench, 25 reps, whatever the weight was you could do. Incline, decline, push-ups, 4 rounds. Now we're on biceps and triceps, right? Because I covered, biceps, triceps. We didn't do anything for core. Biceps were pull-ups, chin-ups, and then hammer curls, and then preacher, 4 rounds. And then triceps were dips, overhead presses, and then the push-down bar, 4 rounds. It was 100 sets. It was an hour. You wanted to vomit every time you did that.
By the way, that program that you just laid out is probably all anybody would ever need to do. Literally.
Oh my God.
That's
it. It was unbelievable.
I'm going to do that tomorrow. I got this shit recorded. I'll FaceTime with you. Oh, dude, I'll fucking do it for sure. I've got everything I need in my gym. I got it all here, all of it.
You got to do that. You got to call it the Spartan prison workout. I haven't done that since the 90s. And you know what? When we would go to Gold's Gym to do it, and I did it at least 3 to 4 times a week. Okay, and you just cringe when you knew it just was that bad.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because there was no rest. You could not stop. Once it started, you had to be out by an hour. That was the deal.
I love it.
And CrossFit, right? They've got their workouts, and obviously got very hard workouts. But I think this one takes the cake.
That's a good one. I mean, I think the hardest part of that probably, and it's so funny that this would be the hardest part, but it is because there's no weights involved, are the pull-ups. Pull-ups.
Oh my God. When you wanted to just, you got to that point when you had to do, the chin-ups. If you're talking about when you got to biceps and triceps, you just wanted to pack it in. Like, all right, we already did enough at this point, right? But you got it done. The pull-ups suck. Pull-ups always. You've actually gotten what? I got better at pull-ups now than I was then.
I did in the beginning of the pandemic. I wanted to see how many pull-ups I can get in a sitting. And in the beginning of the pandemic, I surprised myself, and I jumped up my pull-up bar, and I do pull-ups. I do 50 pull-ups every single day to start my workout. It's just part of my program. But I got up there and I did 22 dead hang pull-ups first shot out the gate to see what I could do. And I was like, holy shit. And I got up to 37 pull-ups without getting, not like boom, 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 but hanging, taking my time, hanging. I got to 37 pull-ups, man. I couldn't believe it. It was like, I couldn't believe it.
That's impressive. No, I don't know why. When I started it, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I started this pull-up thing where I do 50 a day every day as well. Now I don't do 50 in a row. I don't do them. They're not swinging. They're good pull-ups, but they're sets of 10. I do 5 sets of 10 every day.
That's what I do.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
So Spartan, man. So tell me about so you're on Wall Street and you're not taking care of yourself, and that's what sort of kickstarts this whole entire Spartan life thing.
I actually met a guy. The elevator was busted, and we had to take the stairs to get up to the floor where we had our office. And there was a guy in the stairwell, and he was very fit. He was a model on the cover of Men's Health. And he was carrying dumbbells up and down the stairs. And I started to talk to him on the way up. Guys like you and I, we talk to everybody. And I was just having this conversation. And by the end of it, I was meeting him in the stairwell every day. And I just started to get really fit in that stairwell. I mean, you know what it's like going up and down stairs. You carry dumbbells. It's there's not a lot of oxygen in the stairwell. It's hot. You're sweating. And I just started to feel really good. And then from there, in those conversations going up and down the stairs, he said, "You got to try an adventure race." I didn't know what it was. I knew like long distance running race. I knew this, but I never really heard of this. Like we're going to kayak and bike and run, and it sounded a little silly, but I went and did one with him down in Texas. And that was it. I was hooked. Talk about feeling alive and great. Probably like you felt in Muay Thai, right? When you would fight. And so the harder the race, the more interested I was. Wherever that race was, anywhere in the world, you can't do that one. Oh yes, I will. Sign me up. And so I just went on this rampage around the world doing events. And because I'm an entrepreneur, during those events, I said, well, I'm gonna put on events. And so that's how Spartan was born.
You ran 100 ultras and 14 Ironmans in 1 year. Is that right?
Oh, it was 50, but I love the fact that that the fish keeps getting bigger. I love that you just said 100 because no one's ever said that. And for a moment, I could have said, yeah, 100.
So 50 ultras?
50 ultras, 14 Ironmans, yeah.
In 1 year?
1 year.
You're an
I went
animal.
a little crazy. But my favorite story is I did the Vermont 100. I did Badwater, which is across Death Valley, lowest elevation in the U.S. to the highest, and I did Lake Placid Ironman all in a week, which was very hard, very hard. It was 137 degrees in Death Valley when we ran across Death Valley. My shoes melted, my shirt melted. I mean, you could appreciate temperatures from the kitchen, right? The stove is pretty hot. 137 degrees outside is a nightmare. You turn into a meatball.
Were you married then?
I was married. Yes, I was married.
And so, I get enough crap from living this sort of like, life of an entrepreneur, must stay fit, structures, everything. Like, I don't let things penetrate that stuff for me. And I also don't like sacrifice my family because I'm up way before everybody else to do it. But my wife can't stand my
wife is over here. She's listening to you and she's like, yes, like, look how great I am because I let you do anything. No,
I do.
But the truth is, I was on my 14th Ironman. We were in Switzerland. She's 8 months pregnant with our first son. I'm barely making it across the finish line. And she's like, what are we doing? Are we going to just do Ironmans? Or like, what are we doing? Are we having a family? This is ridiculous. So that wasn't my last Ironman. But
no. How about when you did bike riding at Aconcagua when Jack was like an infant and Charlie was an infant? And
it's true. I would leave on adventures often while she had kids in the house. And a couple of times somehow bats would end up in the house through the chimney or whatever. So I'm away.
She'd call and say, "Get the fucking bats out of here!" Like I'm.
No, she got to the point where she can kill them by herself.
I am like a bat and a bat hunter.
She killed the bats.
Dude, you're creating hustle, my man. This is how you created hustle in the home.
Taking care of the kids, killing bats, and I'm out at doing adventures.
I trapped it with a salad spinner and I let it go outside.
Oh, you got it with a salad spinner. Now the truth comes out. You made it sound like you killed it and cooked it.
A bat. It just.
It's so funny. So for my last bodybuilding competition, we're in pandemic. The world is in a shit storm, and I am like convinced that I'm gonna do this bodybuilding. I train for it, and the training's not that hard. It's really the nutrition, right? Like you have to be disciplined to the point where you're training harder than you've ever trained, and you're also putting in 1,200 calories a day. So your body is just like, it's working backwards, literally, to detracting. And my wife was like, "Why are you doing this? No, there's not going to be any competitions. You've had 4 of them cancel in a row." And I said to her, I was like, "Babe, I'm telling you, I'm going to find one. I'm just not going to, I'm going to find one." And I got so lucky. I found one. She wanted to kill me because when you're eating 1,200 calories a day for like 2 months straight, you're just not the most pleasant guy to be around. And when the kids are screaming, I was just like, "Babe, you got to go handle that." And she's like, "This isn't your career." And I'm like, it means a lot to me. It means a lot to me. Anyway, I found this tiny little show that happened in Maine. And I won the whole show.
Oh, that's awesome.
But it was like I'm hearing you with the ultras and the Ironmans, and I'm like, the amount of training that I know that goes into that. Your wife is incredible. Did you hear that, wife? You're incredible.
She walked away. I'm glad she didn't hear it because I don't want it to go to her head. I like keeping her chained up.
All right, man. I want to just ask you a few more questions, then I'm gonna cut you loose. Culture to me means a lot in business. It means could very well mean everything. What is your thoughts on culture in business?
Yeah, I try to instill, and I think I am definitely a work in progress. I try to instill that neighborhood culture. It was easy when it was 5 of us in a room. When it got to 500 of us, spanning 45 countries, it's harder. I would say it's not impossible though. And I think it's because of Spartan and what it stands for and the kind of people it attracts to come work for us. Typically you're getting paid less than market. You're working twice as hard as market, anywhere else. And, but you get to watch that last place person cross the finish line that might be missing a leg or like, you know what I mean? So if you're attracted to work at a place like this, I already have an advantage of the kind of people I'm getting. That said, I'm definitely not, I'm a work in progress on getting culture. I think companies in general are work in progress. I mean, I look back to the 1950s, look at all the behemoths that were running the world. Most of them don't even exist anymore. They don't exist. I mean, Kodak, come on. Like you remember Kodak was it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go down the list of companies that were these giant monster companies and they're barely surviving. And so I think it's one of these things where it's always going to be a work in progress. And yeah, I don't know if I answered the question well or not, but yeah.
No, I mean, I got it. Culture, I think, is the hardest thing. It's what companies are typically born on, but it's the hardest thing to scale. It's the hardest thing to scale.
To scale, you hire people. I had Jeff, my COO, saying it to me today, "Joe, we got to get your voice back infused." And it's like, it's easy when there's 5 of us sitting around. But
right.
Like, what am I gonna do? You can't be on every phone. Like,
it's hard.
So you do the best you can do. And the brand that we are is a tough, crazy, like anybody that's any consultant, any investor, any board member, anybody that looks at us says, you got to soften it. Like, no, I want to harden it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to soften it. Take that barbed wire thing out of there. Get rid. No, Add more barbed wire.
If you had to say the Spartan was a life, like the Spartan lifestyle, what would that be?
Well, I think it's exactly what you would envision 2,500 years ago, right? It's a very simple life. It's just hard work. It's eating food for purpose, not because like it tastes good, right? It's just like, all right, I just need some fuel. So it's just focused on health. It's extreme wellness. It's extreme wellness.
Extreme wellness. That's perfect.
Right? Going out in the rain for a run. It's getting out in the cold. It's taking those cold showers. You know, I disconnected the hot water heater in the house.
Did you?
Just last night. They don't know it. I turned the heat off. It was cold.
You're an animal. Oh my God. Habits are a big part of my life. I think habits make or break everyone. I believe we are our habits, period. Are there any habits that you can share with us that you do on a daily basis that sort of help make you who you are?
Yeah. Yeah. Like at night, every night, the night before, what are my big three I'm getting done tomorrow? That's been going on since I'm preteens.
Big three. Just tell us what that means.
Whatever my big three things are tomorrow. I gotta deal with the bank. I gotta deal with these 2 employees. I gotta hire this person. Whatever the big three things are, I gotta get done tomorrow.
You write them out?
Yeah, I write them out, and those I type them out. I gotta get those big rocks done. All the other stuff, if I get it done or not get it done, it's no big deal. Those three have to get done tomorrow. Many times, those three are moved to the next day too, and like they stay on the list until they're done.
Mm.
I gotta earn my breakfast. I gotta sweat before I eat in the morning. I gotta take my cold shower. I gotta get.
How long do you take your cold shower for?
I have to admit, in the winter, it's a shorter duration. In the winter, although I'll tell you something interesting this morning. My garage was freezing because I shut the heat off last night in the house. The garage was freezing, and I had to do a live workout. And my daughter, I made my daughter do it with me, my youngest daughter, and she was like, "My feet are in the middle of the workout." She was like whispering to me, "My feet are freezing. Can I go inside?" No, we got to finish the workout. And we got it done. And I went and took my cold shower, and I was like, wow, the water feels warmer in the shower this morning. But it wasn't warmer. It was just because it was so cold in the garage.
Yeah.
The cold water in the right. So I'm probably a 3-minute shower, and I would say as short as 1 minute in the winter.
You know what's so funny? There's a piece of me that because I also work out in the garage, and I don't have a heat source in the garage, and I live not far from you up here. So it was fucking 19 degrees when I woke up this morning, and I've got concrete floors in my gym, right? And I was freezing my ass off, and we're doing some work on the house, and I was with the contractor, and I was like, man, it was fucking cold in the gym this morning. And he goes, oh man, we'll pop a radiator in there. And I was like, nah. I did something. It's a sickness. Like I like it. And I've got in my gym, I rigged a chest freezer with a temperature control to keep. I fill it halfway up with water, and I keep it at 39 degrees. And so nice. Midday, I walk down to the gym, and I fucking take a deep breath, and I jump in the chest freezer for 5 minutes. I sit in there. Nice. And if anybody wants to change their day, that is an unbelievable way to do it.
Oh my God. And the thing is, it never gets better. I like I said, I've been doing this since the 70s with the cold showers. It never gets better.
Yeah.
Never gets better. In Japan, we lived in Japan for a year. We had the cold water plunge. And I love that. I hate it, but I love it.
I'm with you. Right before it, I hate it. But a minute in, when my heart rate is down at like 40 beats per minute, and I'm breathing in there, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, Mike, you are truly a sick bastard. Like, you love this.
You become very in the moment. Like, you can't be any clearer.
Right. And then when you
Right.
get out, you're just like RoboCop.
You are.
You know, you're just like,
Yeah.
all right. So we've got the big three, which I think is great. I'm going to put that into my routine. And then you've got your cold shower. You got to earn your breakfast. What else?
I've been going to bed early forever. I always go to bed early. I typically don't eat 3 or 4 hours before bedtime. Drink mostly water. Yeah, those are my big ones, and I work all day.
Have you picked up any recent habits that you thought were good enough to throw into your routine?
I mean, I always do some mobility and flexibility. Again, I do that forever. New habits that I've picked up. No, these are like 35 years old. There's nothing new in this. This old dog doesn't have anything new.
All right, just two last things. Nutrition. Is there a specific thing that you stick to? Are you the same kind of guy like me where you just have like 10 things you eat and that's it?
Yeah, mostly plant-based. I wouldn't say mostly plant. I lean plant-based. I have a little bit of meat, tiny bit of meat. I do like fish, although lately, the last couple of years, I eat less fish. I would say fish and meat are maybe 10 or 15% of my diet. Mostly plant-based. I probably eat too many bars. Every couple of days I'll eat a bar because because I don't eat anything else. That's like my cheat. You know,
What's your first meal of the day?
First meal's at 9 a.m., a big salad and 1 or 2 eggs.
You don't eat oats ever?
I took a blood test. They said 38 out of my 40 biomarkers are perfect. 2 of them are not so great. LDL cholesterol, they said you need to eat oatmeal in the morning. And I said, I don't want to eat oatmeal. This morning I had oatmeal. So they're pushing me to eat oatmeal, but I don't want it. What it does for me when I have it is it makes me want more things like that. When I don't eat it, when I have a salad and eggs, I don't want it. I can have a salad, I'm good. Soon as I eat something like that, because I don't eat bread, pizza, pasta. I gave up gluten like 12 years ago. So all that's out of my diet. If I eat oatmeal, I'm back in the game.
So you know what? Let me. So I don't eat gluten, no bread, no pasta, none of that stuff. I eat oats every morning. It's my first meal every single day. You got to add protein to it. You got to add plant-based protein to it, and that'll change that craving that you have.
All right, we're gonna try it. I'll try it tomorrow.
Joe DeSena, do you think you were born with an inherent ability to crush it, or do you think you were made over time through grit and grind?
I think I was made. I was born red hair, light skin, a little chubby. I don't think I was born. I think I was made. I grew up in a shitty, crazy neighborhood, crazy household. Was lucky enough to meet all these mentors and just developed grit and grind over. Look, we're all at our core. We are all gritty, resilient creatures. We would not survive the crib if we wouldn't survive birth if we weren't gritty and resilient. Think about that experience, right? And then we learn helplessness. Our parents bubble wrap us. They make things really easy. They spoon feed us. They give us everything we want. And so I was made.
Wow. I am so happy you said that because I was sure you were going to say born, but I'm happy you said made. Dude, this was awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time. You're a legend, and I can't wait to get my ass into one of your races soon. You got to let me know when there's a good one.
Yeah, we're shooting for the new year. We're shooting for it all happening in the new year, and we're heading out right now to a wrestling tournament. We're gonna see if these boys are born or made.
Sure, they were born coming out of your line. All right, man. Thank you.
My wife is too nice. That's the problem. My wife is too nice.
By the way, I think you're so cute.
Oh, I'll see you later.
Later, man. Thank you.